So, welcome to Exodus 19 with your host, Richard Massey, a nation married to Yah. I pray that you guys are having a blessed Sabbath, and I pray that whatever you and your family are going through, that Yah gives you the strength to go through. Today, I wanted to talk about Galatians. I talked about Galatians in one of my earlier podcasts, and I talked about Galatians in reference to whether we have to keep the law or not. Because coming out of Christianity, we believe that everything is grace since Yahshua died on the cross. But now, in a new understanding and in a new walk, and later in that walk, I'm realizing through teaching that it's not talking about whether we are to follow the law or not, but it's talking about the difference between the law and the covenant. So I wanted to start in Galatians and try to, each time I get before you, I want to try to show the difference that could, at least if there's an argument from one way or another, I want to try to remember to point that out. So today we're going to go to Galatians, but we're going to do Galatians 2, not too many verses in Galatians 2, but Galatians 2 and Galatians 3. Because Galatians 3 I spoke on uh, in one of my earlier podcasts. I spoke on Galatians 3. So this is from the IRS Bible. So a lot of the names are different than they are in the King James version. So let's get started. Galatians 2:16. It says, knowing that a man is not declared right by works of the Torah, but through the belief in Yahshua Mashiach, even we have believed in the Messiah. In order to be declared right by belief in the Messiah and not by works of the Torah, because by works of the Torah, no flesh shall be declared right. So, in reading that before, do you see the argument for two different sides of the spectrum? He says, knowing that a man is not declared right by the works of the Torah, by the works of the law. So, Christianity, you would say, see, that's what I'm talking about. A man is not declared right by the works of the Torah, but through the belief in Yahshua, Messiah. So why is he given belief? He has to believe in Yahshua, Messiah. Because Yahshua is going to turn the hearts of the sons back to the Father. Elohim. Where's Elohim? In Genesis. The promise that Elohim or Yah gave to Abraham is the perfect will of Yah. That's him at his best. So it's not about grace. It's not about the law like I thought it was. It's about covenant. It's where it all began. So it says, knowing that a man is not declared right by the works of the Torah, but through the belief in Yahshua Mashiach. Even we have believed in Messiah, Yahshua, in order to declare right by belief in Messiah and not by the works. You see the argument there? Which direction are you going to go? Are you going to go in the works of the Torah or by the beliefs of the Messiah? You see that now? It says, but because by works of Torah, no flesh shall be declared right. You see? So that's what Christians were holding on to. See, I told you don't have to follow the law. We're under grace, right? It says, and if while seeking to be declared right by Messiah, we ourselves also are found sinners, is Messiah then a servant of sin? Let it not be. It says, for if I rebuild what I once overthrew, I establish myself a transgressor. For if I rebuild what I once overthrew, I establish myself a transgressor. For through Torah I died to Torah in order to live to Elohim. For through Torah I died to Torah in order to live to Elohim. So he's dying to the law to go back to Elohim. And in the beginning of the book, Elohim established the covenant before he established the law. The law was created 400 and 430 years after the covenant. So I hope that Yah is giving you ears to hear what I'm saying. There's a total division in a clear direction that it's not the law. Even though sometime in the King James Version of the Bible, certain words are used, it seems like the law is used, whether it's talking about the commandments or not. And sometimes it seems like it's talking about just following the law. Now that could be a translator's problem. I don't know, but all I know is when I'm reading this ISR Bible, it seems to be making it clear that there's two different conversations going on here. And I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of times, and to a lot of people, Galatians is hard to understand anyway. So we just read it by faith, right? It says, Galatians 2:20, I have been impaled with Messiah and no longer live, but Messiah lives in me. And that which I now live in the flesh, I live by belief of the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave me himself and gave himself for me. Now, so let's read that again. He said, I have been impaled with Messiah, right? I'm stuck to him. I've been stuck by him. He's pricking my heart and no longer live. So I died. Why? Because my beliefs, my understandings lit, are with the Messiah because he lives in me. And that I, which now live in the flesh, when I lived in the flesh, I live by belief in the Son of Elohim. Let's pour his name up again. Why are we talking about Elohim so much? Who loved me and gave himself for me. 2021. I do not set aside the favor of Elohim. I don't set aside his favor. Wow, what does he want? He wants you to turn back to the covenant. For if righteousness is through Torah, the law, then Messiah died for nothing. Because the law was designed 430 years ago to be a schoolmaster to teach you to not do the things that are going to pull you away from Elohim. So when they built the golden calf, the law had to be established to give them a right or a wrong. And given this right or a wrong, now you have a conscience that now if I do this one thing, this is wrong, this is going to pull me out of covenant, this is going to pull me away from Elohim. But here's the difference. Remember, we talked about a covenant in Exodus 19, starting at Exodus 19. The covenant with the people was blood ratified, and it was a covenant conformed meal that they ate to close and seal the deal based on the covenant. The law wasn't implemented until they built the golden calf, Because now it's like, okay, I cheated on my wife, so I broke my marriage covenant, right? So now what keeps me in my relationship after I apologize to my wife is the fact that every day I have to remember that if I see a woman that I'm attracted to, I have to remember the law that it's wrong to do it because now I'm going to lose her again. So I get a chance to make a decision. Making a decision to not cheat on my wife is keeping me close to my wife to keep the covenant going. Same thing with Yah. If he says in the commandments, don't worship another God, then I have to remember that when that opportunity comes, by the law reminding me, see how the law and the commandments could be using the same definition. So if I remember through the commandments or through the law that I'm not supposed to worship another God, that keeps me clean. That keeps me close to Yah, right? Which keeps me under the covenant. I'm following the covenant. I'm following the law in that right? So that keeps me honorable in his sight. As soon as I worship another God, the law steps in, and according to what he wants to do with me, because now I have a penalty, whether it's I lose my job or I die. But in that time, they would sacrifice an animal to be reinstated. So they had to use animal sacrifice until Yeshua was to come. That's why the Bible talked about him in the early books. Until Yeshua was to come and die on the cross. Now, when Yeshua comes and he dies on the cross at the Passover, when they're sitting at the table, he's telling them to eat and to drink to the new, read it, to the new covenant. What is the new covenant? You don't have a new covenant. It's taking you back to the covenant under my father in Genesis. Why do you think that Joseph knew not to sleep with the king's wife? Because it was already established that in order to live right by Yah, right, you would do what he said. Why was it uh, deemed righteousness for Abraham to simply believe Yah in Genesis 12? Why did Yah just count it as righteous? Because when Yah said something, he counted it unto him as righteous. That was a covenant. That was a commandment. There was no law there. So then when you get into Exodus and you get into Leviticus and you get into Deuteronomy, it further explains, like when Yah talks about the Sabbath in the first two books of Genesis, the Sabbath is further explained in Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy, right? Abraham never knew a Levite, a Levitical priest. There was no that wasn't created at that time. And here's the new thing. You know why the Levites end up being the priests? Because when Abraham first came to the top of the mountain to see what was going on, it was the Levites that ran to his aid when he said, "Who's on my side?" So that's how they ended up being, through faith, the ones that were considered to be the priest. It's in the Bible, but we never saw it. When Abraham said, "Who's on my side?" it was the sons of Levi that ran to his aid and stood there and then went out and slaughtered everybody that did wrong. That's how they got to be the Levitical priest. So now stepping into the New Testament, now that's why everything that the Levitical priest does now, we don't need to do, because Yeshua is the final sacrifice. Yeshua, we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, He is the high priest. He is the new high priest. We don't need another high priest now. He finalizes everything that has to do with the Levitical priest. Let's talk about the dietary law. Why did Noah know not to bring, know not to bring the same amount of animals that were unclean on the ark as the clean animals? The clean animals were by seven. The unclean was by two, the one the world talks about. So how come there's not a scripture to where Noah says to Yah, well, which ones are unclean and which ones are clean? How does he already know which ones were clean and unclean? So then when we're talking about eating seafood and we're talking about eating pig, those are scavengers. So when it's further explained in Leviticus, it's just giving you more information. But Noah already knew it, right? Noah already knew not to bring seven unclean. He only brought two. So it was established under the covenant by them, by Yah through them back then. And then we talk about the dietary law in Leviticus, where it's giving you all the particular animals you can and cannot eat. But because we're so used to eating shrimp and pork, we say that's done away with. Talk about the Sabbath. The Sabbath is something that Yah did in the first two chapters of the book in Genesis. Further explained more in Leviticus, Exodus, and Deuteronomy, and throughout. But we say the Sabbath is done away with because it's under the law. No, it's not. It's under covenant. It's in Genesis before the law. So what makes it so confusing is that the Bible reads everything as one thing. And usually you can tell what the covenant is when you look at it through Genesis 1:1 to Exodus 24, let's say 9. You can see what the covenant is. And then after that, you can start seeing what the law is. And then you totally can wipe out what the Levitical priests do because Yahshua is now the new high priest. So that's why we don't sacrifice. That's why we don't have a temple. That's why the veil was torn down from top to bottom, because he's the new high priest. Now, the Levitical priests are not the only priests that can go before Yah. Now you can go to Yah. And I said all that, and I didn't even read anything. Let's see if I can just. Now let's go to Galatians 3. It says, "O senseless Galatians, who have put you under a spell not to obey the truth." What is the truth? Before whose eyes Yahshua Mashiach was clearly portrayed among you as impaled. This only I wish to learn from you. Did you receive the Ruach by the works of the Torah, or from the works of the law, or by the hearing of belief? So what am I supposed to hear in order to believe? What did Elohim say to Abraham, to Noah, to Adam, to Isaac, to Jacob? Covenant stuff. Even to Moshe, he said stuff before they wrote the law. Right? He says, "Are you so senseless, having begun in the Ruach, do you now end in the flesh? Have you suffered so much in vain, if indeed in vain? Is he then who is supplying the Ruach to you and working miracles among you, doing it by the works of the Torah or the law, or by hearing or of belief. You see the difference? You see these two things he's asking you? You see what he's saying there that you might not have realized before? He's giving you, he's trying to point something out. Which way did you get what you got? He says, even so, Abraham believed Elohim. What does that have to do with our conversation? And it was reckoned unto him as righteousness. Why? Because he heard Elohim and believed it? Those two key words? It says, know then that those who are of belief of the son of Abraham, and the scriptures having foreseen that Elohim, these early characters, right, would declare right by the nations by belief, announced the good news to Abraham beforehand. What was the good news? I'm going to bless you in every direction that you stand in. I'm going to give you so many children that they'll be like the stars in the sky or the sands on the beach. And you are going to be the father of many nations, an unconditional covenant in Genesis 12. So that's what he gave him when he gave him the good news to Abraham beforehand, saying, all the nations shall be blessed in you. Now we're out here fighting each other, and we're all related. That's why I say Acts 2, when all those different people are coming together in the pilgrimage, which was, I think, the Feast of Pentecost in Acts 2. 9, it says, so that those who are of belief, key words again, are blessed with Abraham, the believer. Not the ones that follow the law, the ones that follow covenant. For as many as are of works, which is the Torah, which is the law of the Torah, are under the curse. For it has been written, curses everyone who does not continue in all that has been written in the book of the Torah to do them. Right? Cursed is everyone who does not continue in all that is written in the book of the Torah to do them. So if I'm not following the Torah, in order to be cursed, if I follow the Torah, I'm cursed. So what else am I supposed to do? Go back to the covenant. Not stay under grace and keep doing what you're doing and then trying to repent. No, what does Yah say to me? What does Elohim say to me that makes me go back there and then do it by hearing and being a believer? I hope that this is blessing somebody. I don't want to sound like a pastor, but I hope that somebody is hearing this. I hope that Yah is giving somebody an ear to hear. It says, in that no one is declared right by Torah before Elohim is clear. For the righteous shall live by belief. The King James Version says by faith. You see the difference? It says, and the Torah is not of belief. Even those who are following the law, like I started out doing. Your intentions are good, but there's two different things being talked about. You have to leave the law and go back to covenant. There's nothing wrong with it. For the man who does them shall live by them. You're going to have to live by all of them, and that's what Christianity was talking about. Well, if you do one, you're going to have to live by all 613, and if you break one, you done broke them all. So don't do none of them. Go back to the covenant. Simply go back to the covenant. Now you don't have to worry about 613 laws. It says Messiah redeemed us from the curse of the Torah. That's why we. That's why we're like, oh yeah, yeah. See right there, you're redeemed from it. It says, having become a curse for us, for it has been written, cursed is everyone who hangs upon a tree. In order that the blessing of Abraham again might come upon the nations in Messiah, Yeshua, to receive the promise of the Ruach through belief. Do you see the difference? Do you see how clear now Galatians 3 is and Galatians 2? And as you read on, maybe even more, it says, brothers, as a man I say it, a covenant, even though it is man's, yet if it is confirmed, no one sets it aside. Now here, or adds to it, because it's blood ratified. And it was a covenant confirming meal to it. So you can't add to it, even though, well, you just can't. Right? It says, but the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed, us. He does not say, and to his seeds. It says, but the promises were spoken to Abraham and to his seed. He does not say, and to seeds, as of many, but as of one. And to your seed, who is the Messiah, dying on the cross, now allows it to transfer to us. Right? It says, for the inheritance by the Torah, it is no longer by promise, but Elohim gave it to Abraham through a promise. So the inheritance of the Torah is not by promise, because Elohim gave it to Abraham through a promise. The promise is not through the law, but the promise is the covenant given to Abraham by Elohim. That's what the promise is. That's what the promise of keeping you saved. That's what that's saying to you. For if the inheritance is by the Torah, it is no longer by promise. I'm sorry. But Elohim gave it to Abraham through a promise. So it's not about the law. It's about the promise. This is what's going to sustain you. It says, why then the Torah? Was it added because of transgressions? Okay. We see, right? Until the seed, the Messiah, should come to whom the promise was made to bring us back. Right? That's what the New Testament is. Majority of the New Testament is to bring you back to the Father. The spirit of Elijah is to turn the hearts of the sons back to the Father. And it was ordained through the messengers in the hand of a mediator. The mediator, however, is not of one, but Elohim is one. Is the Torah then against the promise of Elohim? Let it not be. For if a law had been given that was able to make men alive, truly righteousness, the covenant, would have been by the Torah, right? It says, but the scriptures has shut up all mankind understand that the promise by belief in Yeshua, Messiah, might be given to those who believe. But before belief came, we were being guarded under Torah. Remember, I said the Torah kept you close. Remembering to do something right keeps you out of trouble. So if you're staying out of trouble, it keeps you right. It keeps you close to whoever made. It keeps you close to whoever is trying to keep you. Like if me and my boy was going to a baseball game, And it's like I said, I'm gonna be down at XYZ in whatever corner at 4. In order for you to be there to get in the car to go to the game, you're going to be there at 4. It keeps you close to me. We're working together. We're eye to eye. We're seeing everything on the same path. I get there at 4. You're already standing there. You get in the car. We go. This is a lighter level law breaking situation. I pull up to the corner at 4. You're not there. If you already left, I'm upset because now I could have went straight to the game on my own. If you're late and there's no parking spaces, and I have to wait for you 15, 30, 35 minutes, you got a slight attitude when you get in the car. So when you're doing something right under the agreement of whatever was agreed upon by whoever, you stay close to me when you honor the agreement. But if I had to question you like we never talked about it, then we might have an argument because I have to understand what was you thinking about. Right? So with the Torah, what is it saying? It says, but before belief came, we were being guarded under the law to keep us close. Since after we broke it, now we have the law. We can't do nothing. We can't be no better until Yeshua died. Having been shut up for the belief, having been shut up for the belief, being about to be revealed. Therefore, the Torah became our trainer unto the Messiah. It showed us what he wanted us to do, right? In order to be declared right by belief. So when Joseph knew that it wasn't going to be right to sleep with the king's wife, he reminded himself that if I sleep with her, things are going to negatively happen to me. All right, it's getting kind of late. So I just hope that this has just cleared some things up for you. Hopefully it did. If not, every week that you hear me, I'm gonna try to show you. So this has just been just a reminder that this podcast is also on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube Live. So don't forget to like my page and to share where it applies. Don't forget to hit the notification button if it applies. And don't forget to subscribe as well. Shalom, everybody. Have a blessed day.